Why do guys get random erections? What actually comes out of the male genitalia? How come men lose their hair? And the coup de grace of all questions, what is the average length of a penis? Get ready because all of your questions are about to be answered, and you might be surprised by what you learn. Let's dive right into things with one of the most awkward occurrences for males and one of the most awkward questions in the video. Why do men get unexpected erections? For teenagers and sometimes even for adults, it seems there is no rhyme or reason for when an erection can occur. There are situations when it's obvious why a male gets aroused, such as when someone they find attractive is around, but during puberty a male doesn't need to be thinking about sex for him to get excited down there. Erections can occur unexpectedly due to a sudden surge of testosterone in the body. That's why a male going through puberty might be in the middle of a lecture on the Pythagorean theorem and end up with an erection. It's not that the guy finds the Pythagorean theorem sexy, although puberty can be a confusing time in someone's life, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. Instead, the more likely reason for the unexpected erection has to do with the hormones in the body being all out of whack due to developmental changes. Speaking of the genitalia, before a male even begins to go through his growth spurt in height, he goes through a growth spurt in his testes. This growth occurs because the testes are where testosterone is produced, and males need a lot of this hormone to experience the rest of the puberty-related changes. Basically, with the growth of the testes, more testosterone is produced and a male can start his awkward journey into becoming a man. Soon after the testes start to grow, the penis follows. The time between those two sex organs growing can vary, but at some point both the testicles and the penis will become larger. The surges of testosterone during this time in a male's life are likely one of the reasons for unexpected erections. And to be fair, similar surges in testosterone can happen in adult bodies as well, which can explain why even full-grown men can get unexpected erections at the most awkward of times. And while we're on the subject of erections, something else males should know about them is that one of the molecules associated with causing the penis to fill with blood, which is what causes erections, is nitric oxide. It does this by relaxing certain muscles in the groin and increasing arterial blood flow into the penis. This is pretty odd because nitric oxide works similarly to nitrous oxide, which is what doctors use as an anesthetic. So the male body causes the penis muscles to relax and go to sleep in a similar way to a dentist using nitrous oxide to make their patient do the same thing during a root canal. It might seem odd to relate dental surgery to getting an erection, but the molecules used in both actually have similar properties and serve similar purposes. But what about morning wood, aka when a man wakes up with an erection after sleeping? Is that normal? How often should it happen? Just like unexpected erections, this has to do with the hormone testosterone. Researchers have found that testosterone levels tend to be highest in the morning, right before men wake up. Surprisingly, this is not because the male body is producing more testosterone, but because it produces fewer inhibitors during sleep than during the day. You can think of the process like this. Throughout the day, the male's brain and nervous system actively monitor different hormone and chemical levels. If testosterone levels get too high, the body releases inhibitors to stop its production or to lower the levels of the hormone in the body. However, when a male is sleeping, the brain is not as active and the testosterone levels are allowed to reach higher levels. Therefore, when a male wakes up in the morning, it's not uncommon to have an erection or morning wood due to the higher levels of testosterone circulating around in the blood. In fact, research has shown that testosterone is at its highest levels right after REM sleep, which is when someone is dreaming, and the rest of the body is at its most relaxed. A male doesn't even need to dream of anything erotic to wake up with morning wood, as testosterone levels will increase during any type of dream. So morning wood is completely normal for males. It happens pretty frequently, and it does not mean they're dreaming of sex every night. This brings us to a messier question. What about wet dreams? Is the male ejaculating in his sleep actually the result of dreaming, or is it something else entirely? Wet dreams typically occur when a male is going through puberty. However, the reason for those unwanted nocturnal ejaculations is pretty surprising. Similar to morning wood, wet dreams have more to do with what is being produced in the body than what the male is actually dreaming about. If you didn't already know, it's typical for males to ejaculate in their sleep, and there doesn't need to be any kind of physical stimulation for it to happen. The scientific community isn't entirely sure why males going through puberty have wet dreams, but it's theorized that they occur due to the balancing of hormones, the stimulation of different parts of the brain, and the development of mature genitalia during this stage of life. To be clear, men can still experience this sticky phenomenon even after puberty. It's much less common, but it can still occur. Some researchers suggest that having frequent orgasms during waking hours could reduce the amount of wet dreams someone has during their nocturnal slumber. This is a fancy way of saying that the more masturbation someone does while awake, the fewer wet dreams they'll have while asleep. So some medical professionals actually suggest that to avoid wet dreams, males should actually masturbate more. Other research suggests that wet dreams are just a coping mechanism to help males deal with stress during puberty or at other points in their lives. This is because during wet dreams, or any time that males orgasm, dopamine and other pleasure chemicals are released into the brain. This has been shown to lower stress levels and reduce anxiety. Let's keep on riding the ejaculation train and discuss premature ejaculations and delayed ejaculations. What are they, and can they be prevented? As the name suggests, premature ejaculation occurs when a male ejaculates before they want to. This is fairly common, with around 1 out of 3, or 33% of men between the ages of 18 and 59 experiencing that problem. Once again, medical professionals are not entirely sure why it occurs, but they have a short list of causes that may contribute to premature ejaculation. The first is an imbalance in serotonin, which is a hormone and a neurotransmitter. It's hypothesized that low amounts of serotonin in the brain may result in ejaculation happening quicker and therefore prematurely. Another factor could be age. As men get older, their erections typically become shorter, hence why drugs like Viagra are so popular. However, a side effect of shorter erections may be premature ejaculations, even if the penis is still erect and the person wants to keep going. Regardless of age, many medical professionals think that premature ejaculation could also be influenced by stress or depression. The chemicals in the brain that are attributed to these feelings could result in a male prematurely ejaculating as the body battles with itself to maintain some kind of homeostasis. Luckily, there are several treatments for premature ejaculation. Topical creams and sprays can numb the region, which can result in reduced sensations and longer times between arousal and ejaculation. There are also prescription medications, along with behavioral therapies that could address the underlying causes of the issue. The opposite of premature ejaculation is delayed ejaculation, which can be just as frustrating. Some reports suggest that in certain situations, ejaculation can be delayed for as much as 30 to 45 minutes after sex. You can probably see why this would be a problem, as at that point the male may have already gotten dressed and started making breakfast for their lover when all of a sudden, well, you get the idea. Experts think that delayed ejaculation could have a psychological connection to trauma, along with some physical causes as well. If a male is experiencing delayed ejaculations, they might have blocked ducts in their vas deferens, which connect the testicles to the urethra, where it all comes out. More serious issues could be that there is nerve damage in the pelvic region or to the spinal cord. Some research suggests that certain drugs, especially those that have an effect on serotonin levels, could cause delayed ejaculation. Treatments for this issue should be discussed with a medical professional, as they'll be able to work with a patient to identify the best course of action. This brings us to a basic question that many people have. What is that stuff that comes out of the penis? Or more precisely, what is semen? What makes this bodily fluid so unique is the journey that it takes to be created. When a man ejaculates, the substance that comes out of the urethra is called semen. You may be surprised to learn that semen isn't actually made up of very much sperm. In fact, only about 1 to 5% of the liquid is actually composed of sex cells. Most of what makes up semen isn't even created in the testicles, like you might think. 3 different areas of the male body are needed to generate and mix together all the different components of semen. Sperm is created in the testes, and when a man ejaculates, it begins its journey through the seminal vesicles, where a yellowish fluid that consists of water, sugar, proteins, enzymes, and mucus is mixed in. This substance is what around 70% of the semen is actually made up of. After the seminal vesicles, the liquid passes through the prostate, where a fluid containing enzymes and other molecules is added, and just before ejaculation, the fluid goes through the bulbourethral glands, which secrete lubrication to allow the sperm to pass out of the urethra. For many males, a terrifying question passes through their mind at one point or another, as their hormone-filled body tends to expend a lot of ejaculate during puberty. Can a male run out of sperm? In each ejaculation, there are around 100 million sperm. That is a huge number. If you were to count to 100 million without any breaks or sleep, it would take you over 3 years, and all of that sperm is forced out of a thin tube at a high speed. How fast are sperm blasted out of the male when he ejaculates, you might ask? We'll answer that question in a moment. But first, let's answer the burning question about running out of sperm. Even though with each ejaculation a male loses approximately 100 million sperm, the body is constantly making new sperm cells. In fact, during spermatogenesis, which is the process of making sex cells in males, a man's testicles can generate several million sperm every day, or approximately 1,500 sperm a second. By the end of one spermatogenesis cycle, a male can create around 8 billion new sperm. This process happens all of the time throughout the male's entire life. Therefore, men never run out of sperm, which is one of the reasons doctors recommend vasectomies for men of all ages who want to continue having sex but do not want to have any more children. That being said, the sperm produced, especially at a later stage of life, are not always healthy or viable. There are also some diseases and disorders that can cause sperm counts to drop dramatically and cause infertility. But the main takeaway here is that the vast majority of men will never run out of sperm. Now, getting back to the speed of ejaculation, the average male ejaculate travels at approximately 28 miles per hour. That's faster than the speed limit in many residential neighborhoods. That means that every time a male ejaculates, he could receive a speeding ticket. To put it into context, when a man is having sex and ejaculates, his sperm is shot into his partner at the top speed of a running bull elephant. Granted, the sperm are much smaller than an elephant, but it's still nuts. Once the semen is ejaculated, the speed immediately slows down and the sperm continue their journey through the female reproductive system at a much slower speed. It's pretty much guaranteed that all 100 million sperm will die, as only one can fertilize the female's egg. And even that doesn't always happen. The time it takes from ejaculation to when a sperm reaches the egg can be anywhere from 30 minutes to 24 hours. Let's now step away from the male reproductive system for a bit and focus on some other questions that need to be answered. One problem has plagued men for as long as humans have been around: baldness. What causes men to lose their hair, and can anything be done about it? There are several factors that cause a man's hair to fall out. However, the most common reason has to do with their DNA and what's known as male pattern baldness. This is caused by genes received from a male's parents and affects approximately 30 to 50% of men around the world. Another common problem that causes baldness is that some men's bodies are extremely sensitive to sex hormones called dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, which can lead to hair loss. For men who are sensitive to DHT, their hair follicles shrink over time until they stop growing. For men with baldness in their genes, the DNA contains instructions that at some point terminate the production of new hair follicles or the proteins associated with the growing of new hair. In both cases, those follicles tend to shrink over time due to hormone regulation in the body, which causes finer hair until it stops growing completely. This logically brings up the next question: can hair loss be reversed? The good news is, there does seem to be some treatments that can cause hair to last longer and in certain situations regrow. For example, the topical treatment called minoxidil, the active ingredient in Rogaine, has been shown to promote hair growth, performing best when used on scalps that have recently lost hair toward the back of the head. Unfortunately, minoxidil doesn't always work, and like most treatments, if the baldness is genetic, it ends up being much harder to regrow the lost hair. The other problem is that once someone starts using minoxidil and it works, they have to keep using it, or any progress toward regrowing hair will be lost. Another drug, finasteride, is a pill that suppresses the production of dihydrotestosterone, resulting in a reduction of hair loss. Supposedly, this treatment works slightly better than minoxidil, but it has the same caveat that once you start taking the pill, you can't stop, or the hair loss will resume. More invasive treatments such as platelet-rich plasma or PRP injections can also stimulate hair growth. PRP is injected into the scalp, which then promotes hair growth. This is done using PRP from a patient's own blood, and it's done over several sessions. Then there are hair transplants, which is when a doctor moves hair follicles that are still growing and transplant them onto the bald spots on the head. A huge problem with these treatments is that they can come with astronomical bills, and since those medical procedures are not important to maintaining your health, insurance companies will rarely cover them. Interestingly, men tend not to have a problem growing facial hair for much of their lives. The crazy part is that there are around 15,000 hair follicles on the male face alone. And that's not even counting the ones on top of a man's head. Even the youngest-looking post-puberty man still has no less than 7,000 hair follicles on his face. According to Gillette razors, all of those follicles mean that the razor industry generates around $20 billion annually. Now let's talk a little bit more about puberty before we get into the measuring penises business. When does puberty occur in males? Everyone is different. This means that every male will have slightly varied experiences during their time of life. Some males will start puberty as young as 8 years old, while others won't go through it until sometime after 14. Most males begin the process somewhere in the middle of that range, but the exact age at which puberty starts can vary wildly. The weird thing is that puberty in both males and females begins to occur at an earlier age. Research has found that as the 20th century has progressed, the average age a boy goes through puberty started to shift. Some researchers have claimed that this may be a result of exposure to certain synthetic chemicals that interfere in the way the body regulates its hormones. If the chemicals are causing testosterone and estrogen to be produced and released at an earlier age, this could be one explanation for why males and females are going through puberty younger than ever before. Other researchers attribute this shift to biological factors. It's been proposed that the higher levels of stress associated with living in developing cities or a fast-paced society might cause the endocrine system, which produces hormones, to get out of whack. It also has been suggested that childhood obesity may throw off some of the hormone regulation in a young person's body, which could result in puberty occurring at a younger age as well. According to the National Institute of Health, around 17% of U.S. children are considered obese. The statistic is much higher in underserved communities that don't have access to healthy food options. Puberty occurring earlier in life is likely the result of a combination of things, and it should be closely monitored going forward. During puberty, the male voice tends to change, and it's very common for the voice to break or crack mid-sentence. But why does this happen? As a male goes through puberty, testosterone is dumped into his bloodstream and is carried around in the body by the cardiovascular system. The testosterone signals the voice box to undergo changes, allowing the voice to become lower and deeper. This happens due to the cartilage in the voice box growing in size and thickness. With larger vocal cords and more space for them to vibrate in, the pitch of the voice becomes lower. During puberty, the larynx itself starts to move down, and the Adam's apple begins to protrude from the neck. At the same time, the bones of the face also grow larger. All of this new space and increased size of the voice box allow the male voice to resonate at a lower frequency. The growth and shifting of structures in this area of the body causes the embarrassing voice cracking that most males go through during puberty. Since the voice box, vocal cords, and skeletal structure itself is changing, the brain needs to adjust to produce the proper sounds. Unfortunately, since this is all new to the male, mistakes happen. Sometimes too much air is pushed through the larynx, causing the voice to crack. It's no fault of the person, it's just a strange side effect of them going through puberty. And just as a side note, human males are not the only animal that goes through a vocal change during puberty. Male apes and other animals also develop lower sound ranges. It's not entirely clear why males need to produce lower registers, but some evolutionary biologists believe that it has to do with attracting a mate. We'll now get into the very long-awaited question: how big is the average penis? But before we get there, let's start with some good news. If you have a penis, it's about twice as long as you think it is. That's probably pretty exciting news for most men. Now, before you get too excited and go off bragging to your friends, let's be clear. About half of the muscles that make up the penis are inside of the body. This is because the sex organ needs to be connected to the rest of your body so it can, work. If you were to dissect a human male and take out the entire reproductive system, you would see that about half of the penis is within the body. And when measuring it, the male's entire penis is twice as long as what can be seen just on the outside. Now on to the penis question. The average size of the penis is between 5.1 and 5.5 inches, or about 13 to 14 centimeters. Now that's for an erect penis. The average size of a flaccid penis is approximately 3.61 inches, or 9.2 centimeters. Researchers have found from numerous studies that men tend to overestimate what the average penis size actually is and assume it's around 6 inches. This is not the case. A 6-inch genitalia is above average. The number likely comes from older studies where men reported their penis size to be longer than it actually was, and the 6-inch penis just became ingrained in the psyche of males across the world. Interestingly, the length of the average erect penis seems to have increased in the last several decades. Researchers believe this has to do with males reaching puberty earlier, as discussed previously. The increasing average could also have to do with larger body sizes, as more of the world's population gains access to a wider variety of foods, along with hormone-altering substances that have found their way into people's lives. So the next logical question is, does penis size matter? The scientific answer is that no, it doesn't matter. A below-average size penis and an above-average size penis both function just as well for the purpose that they were meant for, procreating and urinating. But what about desirability? Do women favor men with bigger penises? The vast majority of studies suggest that women prefer partners with an average to slightly above-average penis size. This includes both women reporting on one-night stands and in long-term relationships. Saying that, most people note that they're happy with their partner's penis size regardless of what it is. Therefore, penis size does not seem to matter for either function or desirability. Even still, some people might be wondering if there is a way to increase their penis size. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is that the methods used to increase penis size are oftentimes only temporary and make a marginal difference at best. Then there are the miracle drugs or methods that claim to increase penis size by inches, but actually can cause some serious harm and health hazards. Here are some size-increasing methods that can be used with some effectiveness. Penis pumps are one way to cheaply increase size slightly. The premise behind a penis pump is that it uses suction to draw in more blood, thus making the sex organ bigger. An erection is just blood filling the penis to make it hard. Therefore, it stands to reason that the more blood in the penis, the larger it'll get. A penis pump will have this desired effect, but only temporarily. The pump can be supplemented by a penis ring that'll keep the blood in the penis for longer and thus extending the life of the engorged erection. As long as the penis pump is used correctly, it's harmless. However, over-pumping or severely restricting the circulation of blood using a penis ring can have detrimental side effects that could warrant a trip to the emergency room. There's also stretching exercises that can be done to increase the penis size slightly. This is known as jelqing, and it basically involves the male creating a circle around his penis with his thumb and index finger and pulling the penis skin away from the body. The idea is that this will create micro tears in the skin that, when healed, will make the penis look thicker. Jelqing supporters provide testimonials that the massaging works, but there's no scientific evidence to support this form of elongation. A much more invasive way to increase penis size is through surgical implantation of a synthetic silicone device. This will permanently increase the size of the penis for a hefty cost. This is basically like breast implants, but for the penis. The surgery will add artificial length, but the pain during recovery can be excruciating. With all those penis enlargement methods, it's always best to talk with a medical professional to ensure you are healthy enough for the procedure and understand how each one could impact your body. Another penis-related question has to do with another body part as well. We've all heard the saying, you know what they say about big feet, or hands, or some rendition of the phrase. But is there any correlation between foot size and penis size? The answer is no. One study was conducted by 2 urologists or medical professionals that specialize in the urinary system. They measured the feet and penis length of 104 men. They found there was no correlation between shoe size and penis size. But this is by no means the only study that's come to this conclusion. The general consensus among medical professionals is that there is no significant connection between a man's foot and the size of his penis. On another penis note, you might have heard of Peyronie's disease and have some questions about how much it can impact the shape of a penis. Peyronie's disease happens when scar tissue develops on the penis and it causes it to curve in a significant way. That curvature can be so extreme that it can cause erections to be incredibly painful. Some males that have Peyronie's disease only have a slight curve, which means getting an erection is bearable. But as the penis becomes more and more bent, things can get really bad. Peyronie's disease can curve the penis to an angle where the man can no longer have sex. And as if that wasn't unpleasant enough, the disease can also cause the penis to shorten in length. There are ways to mitigate and reverse the effects of Peyronie's disease before things get out of hand. A doctor might recommend traction therapy if the disease is caught early, which would place the penis in a cradle that applies tension in order to straighten out the sex organ, preventing length loss and limiting the curving. There are some medicines that can be taken, but the evidence of how successful each is varies. In the most extreme circumstances, surgery is used to remove scar tissue and straighten out the penis. In other situations, grafting can be used to fill in the parts of the penis that have been surgically removed. Doctors could also recommend implants that change the shape of the penis after the scar tissue has been cut away, especially if the disease led to significant loss of length. If you were fortunate enough to be born with a normal penis, you might still be afflicted with a very common problem of erectile dysfunction. So what's the deal with ED? It's estimated that erectile dysfunction affects between 18 and 30 million men in the United States alone. Globally, around 40% of men are affected by ED in some way by the age of 40. The basic definition of erectile dysfunction is when a male has a problem getting or maintaining an erection. There are several types of medications that can be used to eliminate ED, but the problem is, this ailment could be signaling bigger problems in the male body. Conditions such as heart disease, high blood pressure, and high blood sugar levels might all be cause of erectile dysfunction. And since all of these can be life-threatening, it's a good idea for a male to check with their doctor if they're experiencing problems down there. The malfunctioning penis might seem unrelated to these other conditions, but everything is connected in the body. Doctors have also found correlations between erectile dysfunction and diabetes as well. And although we often think of ED as being a problem for elderly men, this is not always the case. Erectile dysfunction can occur at any age, which means that if it happens, even if you feel it's embarrassing, a doctor should be consulted. Is there any reason males are born with foreskin around the tip of their penis? The foreskin itself is a double layer of skin and a mucous membrane that covers the head of the penis when it's flaccid. The foreskin most likely served some form of protection for the penis in the distant past before humans developed clothing. It might have prevented dust or other outside particulates from entering the urethra, or perhaps it was a shield against unpleasant bug bites on the sensitive head of the male member. As of right now, we don't know exactly why men have foreskins. According to the World Health Organization, uncircumcised men might have a higher risk of contracting HIV. This is because cells called Langerhans cells found in the mucus under the foreskin are highly susceptible to the HIV virus. These cells give the virus an entry point into the body where it can begin to target a man's white blood cells and dismantle their immune system. On the other hand, the WHO found that men who are circumcised have a reduced risk of contracting HIV by 60%. Circumcision of this piece of skin dates all the way back to artwork in Egyptian tombs from around 2300 BCE. The removal of the foreskin became common as a rite of passage in Jewish and Muslim religions long ago, but it was in the 1800s that the foreskin removal really got weird. During the 19th century, circumcision gained favor in the realm of public health. It was claimed that by removing the foreskin, a man could be relieved of antisocial behavior or even paralysis. The foreskin was also blamed for decreasing a man's sexual pleasure and therefore was often removed. Even though none of those benefits are found in science, this piece of the male body definitely hides secrets other than just the tip. For any male who's been hit in the gonads before, the pain can be excruciating. This begs the question, why are the testes on the outside of the body instead of safely secured within the pelvic region? There is a certain cost-to-benefit ratio when it comes to the location of the testes. On one hand, they're part of the body that produces sperm, which allows the male to reproduce. This means that they should be protected at all costs. On the other hand, testicles need to remain at a certain temperature in order to produce healthy, viable sperm. The internal temperature of the body is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not conducive to the sperm production process. Therefore, the testes are outside of the body to keep them cool. And whenever they need to be warmed up, the cremaster muscles tense, leading to the testicles being pulled closer to the groin. And this brings us to the all-important question: boxers or briefs, which is better for men's health? The answer to this question depends on who you are and what goals you have. It's been suggested that wearing briefs may not be the best option for men trying to conceive, as these types of underwear cause the testicles to be warmer than boxers. As mentioned before, sperm do not do as well in hot environments, and this is why the testicles are not inside the body. That being said, most research on the subject suggests there's no real difference in sperm production and viability between men who wear boxers and those who wear briefs. This is likely because the temperature difference between the two is only a few degrees. On the other hand, briefs tend to support the genitalia better and are tighter than boxers, So if someone's looking for a little extra support and doesn't mind their groin being a little warmer, briefs are the way to go. Conversely, if a man wants to have better airflow and cooler nether regions, boxers might be for him. Either way, it doesn't seem like there is a right or wrong answer to the question of boxers or briefs. Instead, it just depends on who you ask and what they want from their underwear. Now watch 50 insane facts about the female body, or check out why men have to wait and women don't. Refractory period. Sex education.